So today we are diving right into a massive constitutional showdown, one that really tests the foundation of the relationship between the U.S. military and its civilian government. You've got a decorated combat veteran, an astronaut, who's now in the Senate on one side, and on the other, the full power of the White House. This is way more than just politics. It's about what happens when an officer's oath to the Constitution goes head-to-head with a president's power. Okay, let's just get straight to the heart of it. The question that kicked off a whole federal lawsuit: can a sitting U.S. senator, who also happens to be a retired military officer, actually be punished by the Pentagon for what they say politically? That is exactly the battle Senator Mark Kelly is fighting in court right now. So, how did we even get here? How did a public statement blow up into a legal crisis? Well, it all kicked off with a video message. A group of lawmakers who are all veterans decided to speak directly to current service members. They saw it as a simple reminder, but the White House, they saw it as a direct threat. What happened next wasn't a slow burn. It was more like a political wildfire. Just look at how fast this whole thing unfolded. November 18th, 2025, the video comes out. The very next day, boom, accusations of treason are flying around. Not even a week later, Senator Kelly is under a formal investigation. By early January, he's officially censured by the Pentagon, which leads right to the lawsuit. So in less than 2 months, a war of words became a full-blown constitutional fight. The message itself was really pointed. These lawmakers, all veterans themselves, they weren't talking about foreign enemies. They were framing their warning around domestic threats to the Constitution. They were basically asking service members to remember that their deepest loyalty isn't to a person or to an office, but to the document they all swore an oath to protect. And here is the absolute legal bedrock of their entire argument. They weren't making up new rules. They were just reminding troops of a principle that's been central to the U.S. military for decades, going all the way back to the Nuremberg trials. The idea is that service members don't just have the option to refuse an illegal order, they have a legal duty to refuse it. So this wasn't some call for rebellion, it was a restatement of the law. The administration's response just skipped right over any kind of legal debate. It was immediate, it was furious, and they used the most serious accusations you could possibly level against sitting members of Congress. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller was one of the first to frame the video like this. He took a reminder about following legal orders and immediately translated it into a call for insurrection. Then, the president himself amplified that message, and he escalated it dramatically by reposting a comment and adding the word treason. The rhetoric was now at the absolute highest level. I mean, we're talking about a crime punishable by death. And the online storm just got more intense from there. The president also reposted this comment, which took the accusations from just words to a direct call for violent, fatal consequences against these lawmakers. Okay, so let's look at how this social media firestorm actually jumped into the real world, how it went from online posts to official government action aimed squarely at Senator Mark Kelly. To really get the gravity of this, you have to understand who they were targeting. This is Mark Kelly's record: a retired Navy captain, a combat pilot with 39 missions in Desert Storm, a NASA astronaut who commanded the space shuttle. He's earned some of the highest honors you can get. This isn't just a resume, it's a lifetime of public service. Now, on the other side of this conflict, you've got Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who happens to be the least experienced defense secretary in the history of the country. The contrast between their careers is, well, it's stark, and it became a really central part of the whole public conversation around this. On January 5th, Hegseth made the threat official. He sent out a formal letter of censure, accusing Kelly of undermining the chain of command. But he didn't stop there. He also ordered the Navy to look into demoting Kelly in retirement, a move that would actually strip him of his rank and cut his pension. Kelly's response was, as you can imagine, immediate and defiant. He framed this whole thing not just as a personal attack, but as an attempt to intimidate any service member, past or present, who might ever think about speaking out against the administration. And that fight he promised, it moved pretty quickly from press conferences to the federal courthouse. On January 12th, Senator Kelly officially sued the administration, setting the stage for what could be a landmark legal battle. His lawsuit is basically built on 4 huge constitutional pillars. First off, simple First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. Second, the Constitution's speech and debate clause, which is there specifically to protect lawmakers from being punished by a president for things they say. Third, the fundamental separation of powers. He's arguing the executive branch can't just police the speech of Congress. And finally, a violation of due process. And here's the thing, according to the lawsuit, what's happening here is completely unprecedented. The argument is that never, in the entire history of the United States, has a president and their Defense Department used the threat of military punishment to silence a member of a co-equal branch of government. This case could literally redraw the lines of power. But to really get why a senator would risk so much over this principle of illegal orders, you have to see that this isn't just some theoretical debate. No, this connects directly to real-world life-or-death decisions that are being made by the U.S. military. First, we gotta understand a specific term from the laws of war: perfidy. In simple terms, it's a war crime. It means faking being a civilian to attack an enemy. So, for example, disguising a military warplane as a regular passenger plane. It is strictly forbidden. And that brings us to this pretty stunning report from the New York Times, which was published just a few months before this whole controversy exploded. It revealed that the U.S. military had allegedly done exactly that, used a secret aircraft disguised as a civilian plane during an attack. This is the kind of real-world situation that shows you exactly why Kelly and the other lawmakers felt their warning about illegal orders was so urgent. Which leaves us with this fundamental question, one that every single person who puts on a uniform has to think about. For a soldier, for a veteran, for a senator who once served, where is that line? What happens when your allegiance to the chain of command seems to conflict with that higher, lifelong oath to protect and defend the Constitution? That's the question that is now before the courts. And whatever the answer is, it's going to have some profound consequences for the future of American democracy.